Hey there everybody, and welcome back to Sasquatch Speaks. This is Sasquatch, otherwise known as Gavisas, welcoming you all once again to this dark little corner of the internet, which is so ever so affectionately known as ours. On today's episode, I will be talking about a very brief subject, and I say very brief because I am recording this at 11 o'clock at night, and I still need time to render this out and upload the video, which I need to hurry along and do. So, yes, that being the case, I am a 24-year-old Caucasian male, hairy, tall, little overweight, still relatively young, chronologically, perhaps a little bit old fogey-ish in my mindset, which could perhaps lead to my perception of extreme hatred and distaste for text messaging. That's right, folks, I hate text messaging. I know. And I know there are many people not many people, but there are some people. There's not even many people watching this podcast right now. It's not even a podcast. I don't know what this is. It's a thing on the internet. But there are people who are watching this podcast. I did it again. I'm so sorry. I did it. I just have problems. There are people who are watching or listening. There we go. Listening. You cannot listen to. Well, I guess you can listen to a podcast. I'm sorry. There's people listening to me talking right now who I have texted before. Even perhaps texted this week. I know one for sure who is probably not watching this, but I have texted this week who has the ability to watch this. And, of course, also have the ability of me texting them. The likelihood of that happening. But I hate texting, and like I said, I do it. I know I do. But I don't like to. I don't want to. Whenever it comes to a point where it's like, Gavi, you just have to text them sometimes. I say, I know I have to. But I really don't want to. It's not anything wrong with, text per se, letters. I like letters. I write letters. I write most of my letters upside down. It's a whole other story. I just still haven't gotten to it. I may get to it someday. But for right now, just know. It's not the point. The point is, there is so much of communication which is lost through text messaging. And I'm singling out text messaging. I will email someone or anything else rather than text message. If I can in any way, shape, or form do it. My absolute preference for communication, person to person, is exactly that, person to person. Meet face to face and communicate. Why? Because then the entire message is both sent and received. When people communicate, when people are trying to convey a thought to another human being, there are three areas of perception, of communication, which are transferred back and forth between people. The first and most obvious is verbal, the actual words being said, being communicated, the content of the message. Then there is the tone, the tense, how those words are said. Because you can say, I love you, man, and it works out okay. It's like, oh, okay, there's some affection there. He's like, I love you, man. It sounds like, oh, you were trying to kill him or something. That's probably not a good thing. You should probably tone down off the coffee and the steroids or whatever else it is that makes you sound like you're trying to kill that person rather than, convey the words of that message. And then the third area is body language. And now I understand. We cannot always be in the same place as the person you're talking to. And so I am willing to give up body language. However, it has been proven time and time again through science people and stuff and studies and surveys and everything else they can do to prove this out, or try to disprove it, in fact. They've done both. That the single most important part of communication is actually being able to see that person move about and see how they're engaging with their chosen topic. And I understand. Like I said, I'm willing to cut that part out. Clearly, I am, because this is a static picture with words thrown over top of it. So you're limited to the first and the second forms of communication. Like I said, out of topic. I mean, out of context, you lose a little bit of the message, and it's okay. I'm willing to sacrifice that in return for some anonymity, which is not particularly absolutely necessary, but is something that I choose that I want to have in terms of just being me and having my own little place on the internet and not particularly wanting my face and stuff to get around out there. I have some reasons for that, which I may get into another time. Again, not the point for right now. The point for right now is I am willing to sacrifice that single most effective form of communication, that being seeing me, how I move, my body language. Like I said, I've mentioned this before. When I'm sitting here in my chair facing my little improvised pop filter in order to get my point across via words and inflection, my arms are flying all over the place. They're just crazy and it's wild. And I'm sure if anyone were to look at my window right now, they'd think I was absolutely just out of my mind because of how much I am moving in this little black chair that I have. Again, not the point. When you convey words, verbally, vocally, let's put it that way, vocally, you are still able to contain within that two levels of communication. Obviously, you still have that verbal message. You are conveying words. And you are able to convey inflection, tone, context by how you are pronouncing those words, what syllables you are stressing, how you are that's not the word. How you're, well, I already said pronouncing. How your syllables fit together, so to speak. It's not necessarily that you're just, in 1940. You're not narrating something like a History Channel guy. You're trying to convey. Well, at least I am in this case. I'm trying to convey some level of excitement, perhaps, about my topic, or frustration, kind of today's, in that capacity. It's like, okay, well, for this show, I'm willing to sacrifice one area of communication. One. The second, when you get down to actual just text or words or letters, block language, let's put it that way, written, cuneiform, I don't know. That's maybe going a little bit too far. But when you get just down to these are words, you lose all context. You lose however they're spoken. So that I love you, man, could be turned from, could be interpreted any number of ways. It could be interpreted as either, the heartfelt, hey, yeah, you're a pretty good guy. Let's go on and hunt some monsters or something. Or it could be like the very sarcastic, yeah, I love you, man. Yeah, you're good for some jokes or something. Or it could be a completely duplicitous thing in that the person who said it may be creeping up behind you right now and trying to kill you. But we hope that isn't happening. If it is happening, please call the police. It's a very, very bad thing to have people trying to kill you. Just trust me on that one. Anyway. So, your context just diminishes every step of the way. Every step of that, every tier of communication that you remove, removes the power of the message. And when you take that and you condense it down even further, because we've had written language for centuries, for eons, however you want to put it, millennia, we've had written language, I'm assuming, since fairly close soon after the arrival of human beings on this planet. However you choose to quantify that coming into being, I pretend to believe the biblical account. Some other people choose not to. That's not the point. The point is that when you condense things down from actually being there and seeing the person and hearing their context in which they are conveying their message, and then you take that down again, you say, okay, well, now just hearing them from their tone and their words, okay, and now we're taking it down to just the words. You lose so much. And there are cases where I'm even willing to give up the top two, because those are the ones that the words of a message, statistically, are really only about 10% of the actual communication. as is hopefully fairly obvious with this video right here, I might be overreacting a little bit intentionally for this one in order to convey my point a little bit more. But that is also a part of the message. Like, I don't think I was yelling quite like this yesterday. I don't think I'm really yelling either. Just a little bit heightened level of volume, perhaps. But it's a part of the context of this message that I'm trying to convey. It's not something that would be completely out of place if I were to just say this to you in normal. It's like, I hate, I just kind of hate texting, and it's frustrating. Because I'm trying to convey a full idea in just 10% of total communication. And it's impossible. You can't do it. And like I said, there are certain cases where I'm willing to give up that. But when I do, I preference. It's not an absolute law, but it's a preference of mine that in those cases where I must give up full understanding of what I'm trying to convey, it is my preference to be able to add much, much, much exposition. Give every little bit of minutia and detail that I possibly can in a letter or an email or something like that, which is a long-form document. When you just condense all of this down into 200 characters, whatever it is, you're not really conveying anything. And I understand there's Twitter, and I'm on Twitter, and blah, 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 blah. Follow me in the links down below. Yeah, do it. But in those cases, I'm not really trying to convey deep, meaningful thoughts and ideas, and it's going to shatter the earth and will change everything. No, I'm not going to do that in that context, because there is no context. It's just words on a screen. 140 characters. There's no way that you can possibly convey all that people are, all that the message is, in 140 characters. It's a little blurb. It's a cute idea. Maybe it made you think for a second. Maybe. Probably not. And so I'm baffled. Like I said, I am right in that demographic that should be just latched on to texting and everything else, and Facebook and Twitter, and on there 24 hours a day and just twittering away at everything. Nope. I go on there. I post stuff. Usually I just post links to my shows and stuff like that, but so sometimes I actually put out other things, thoughts or ideas or little updates on what I'm doing that day. Or when I cook, I sometimes throw up a picture of, well-done steaks. It's a thing that happens. But I'm not, in those instances, I'm not actually trying to change anything. I'm not trying to impose ideas or increase knowledge or learning or understanding or anything like that. I'm just having fun. Just throwing it out there. Anyone likes it, go ahead. I don't mind. But when it comes down to actually trying to do those things, to increase knowledge, to increase understanding, to convey broad spectrum ideas and hopefully inspire someone to do something, I prefer a more personal touch, a more inflective tone, something from which more of the total message can be derived. Like I said, for this show, I am willing to sacrifice the best. I'm willing to sacrifice the visual thing of being able to actually see me as I'm gesticulating about and my arms are flailing everywhere, blah, blah. I'm willing to sacrifice that for the sake of anonymity, because I enjoy a bit of anonymity. It perhaps lends a bit of mystique and mysteriousness to my personage and my internet persona, so to speak. Not that I'm a different person when you would meet me, which is kind of a scary thought for some of you to think about that. But I'm willing to sacrifice that for the anonymity. But to actually say, well, I'm going to go the full way and just throw up text or text message somebody, no. There has to be more. There has to be substance to the message. There has to be some power and some feeling which is conveyed beyond just the words which are spoken in a dull, monotone, unappealing, unappetizing manner. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. If you did enjoy, a like rating down below would be very much appreciated. If you didn't, please leave a dislike rating and a nasty comment telling me to stop flailing my arms all over the place. Ah! I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.